Hi guys, and a very warm welcome back to the Culture Sphere. My name is Dom from Soundsphere magazine. I'm with my buddy Jay from Inkblot Films.
Yo, 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 hey.
That was so gangster, man.
It was,
I hope you guys have been enjoying the videos we've been doing. Obviously, we did Beetlejuice and Candyman the other week. We've done some John Wick stuff, John Wick and Wolverine.
We've done Gizmo versus
Gizmo and
Chucky. That was pretty fun.
That was fun to do. We're going to get back on Twitter doing some debate stuff and do some polls because we love it when you guys vote. But we thought in the interim we would do another one featuring two popular pop culture vampires from different parts of the world and history, and the 90s mainly. I guess the 90s.
Yeah, why not?
Spike came into particular prominence in the 90s. Morbius has always been a big part of the Spider-Man comics, and obviously he's about to be a blockbuster movie, one would assume, with Mr. Leto taking the role. So yeah, so Morbius versus Spike. Jay, take us to the location, set the scene.
Right, let's lay this down. So we start off Sunnydale, dead of night. The moon is full, but it's eerie. There's a thick fog, a miasma that's hanging low on all the gravestones in this graveyard in Sunnydale. There are no birds that you can hear, no beasts, deadly silent, just eerie, creepy silence. Until we hear a blood-curdling scream. Yeah, that one. And we whip over. That was great. We whip over to see. We whip pan to see Spike standing up from behind a gravestone, and we hear a body thud and hit the floor. Spike wipes the blood from his mouth that he's obviously just drained from an unwilling victim, and he says, "Bloody hipsters, what is it with them and avocado?" In that typical British, really convincing British accent that he's got. And then he grabs a beanie hat, similar to one I'm wearing now, and that dabs the rest of his mouth off and says, "The beard tickles too." But from that moment, his vampy sense tingles, and he can hear something from far away. Okay, all right. Enter Morbius, the living vampire, who flies in and fully mounts Spike. We're gonna inspire some really weird fan fiction off the back of this. He mounts Spike, takes him down with his hands and his feet, properly tackles him, and he's like, "I want to know where the Slayer is. I need the Slayer's blood tonight. He needs it. Not tomorrow. Not in a week. He needs it tonight." There is an urgency, a sense of urgency as to why Morbius, the living vampire, is in Sunnydale this evening. He tackles Spike and he says, "I hear you can get me to the Slayer, and I need the Slayer's blood right now." Okay, so I think what happens next is after he's swooped down, they've probably smashed into a bunch of gravestones, which has broken their fall, and Spike from underneath Morbius, bats his hands and says, "Ends off the goods, wanker. This is dry cleaned." And then Morbius turns around, floats back, stands, a meter away from him, and says, "Tell me the Slayer is, and I'll let you get back to your 80s Billy Idol pop fantasy." And then what happens next, Dom?
Okay, so Spike realizes after a few more dramatic hits and thwacks and bashes and pows that he's not going to really get the upper hand here, because Morbius can keep flying backwards and then tackling him and getting the upper hand. So he thinks about what he can do. He takes a takes a moment, and he's like, I'm going to have to fake an injury. Okay. So
I think, but before that happens, I think Spike, Spike gets up, he grabs a gravestone, and he uproots the gravestone, throws it at him, at Morbius. He grabs a tree, uproots that because he's a vampire, he's got superpowers, and he throws the tree. But Morbius has flown up, and he's dodging, whizzing past all these things that are, whizzing towards him. And then as Spike sits there and thinks, hang on, this guy's too far away. I need to get the upper hand somehow. He pulls up another gravestone, chucks it at him. Morbius grabs it, throws it back, and it smashes straight into Spike's chest and falls on the floor. Because he can't breathe, but Morbius doesn't know that. He fakes being winded and says, "Oh, you got me, governor. Oh, you don't play fair. Knees up, Mother Bran. Oh, chim chimney, chim chim chiroo." And then he says, "Oh, I'll give you what I want. I need to crawl back to my lair." And then, still faking, Spike crawls, pretending he's deathly injured, and heads towards his great crypt lair that he lives in. And at this point, Morbius, in his arrogance and hubris, he floats down and gently lands on the grass and starts walking towards Spike, and he says, I can end this for you quickly. This isn't your fight. Just tell me where the Slayer is, and we'll call this quits. There is no need for this violence today. And that's when Spike crawls down into his crypt, Morbius following until they're both inside. And then Spike says, tough titties. Tough titties, pale man.
I think we'll go with that, actually. Yeah. Okay, so tough titties, pale man.
Tough titties, pale man. No, I've got another one. He says, but Morbius stands there, and he's walked inside into the dark crypt. Spike turns around, a glint in his eye, that the veneer is lifting, and you can see that he's not actually harmed. And Spike turns around and he says, "Not tonight, emo boy." And then everything goes black.
Yeah,
it's typical monster movie style. We all the lights go out, the candles, they blow out, and all we hear is the crypt door and locking behind him. Then the flames, the candles. Yeah, that's the word. Then the candles flare up, and when we're lit in this candlelit gothic dungeon that is Spike's lair, his home turf. That's where he's most powerful. He has finally got Morbius trapped, and Morbius looks a little scared.
He's a little bit unsure. He doesn't know quite what to do. They begin another Josh Whedon-esque dramatic fight. Lots of thwacks and powers and all that nonsense with the noise and sound effects. Maybe a Wilhelm scream here or there somewhere.
Do you want to do that again? They're throwing crypts. They're chucking cables. They're punching holes in the wall. This is super vampire stuff happening right now, and they are absolutely destroying Spike's lair. Yeah, it's getting totaled, and no one is getting hurt at this point. It's almost futile.
The macho fight. They're thwacking and they're bashing. And, Spike takes a hit, Morbius takes a hit. They spin around, of course, when to emphasize each other's power. So a hit will happen, and then Morbius will take like a 360 4 times over, and then Morbius will throw a kick, and Spike will spin, upside down 6 times, and then the fight comes to we're not going to call it a conclusion when Morbius drives Spike through the back wall of the crypt. So he takes him through the wall. Spike is dazed.
Yeah, I think he takes a run up. Morbius he pushes back because he knows he can fly, but he's only got certain room in this place. And with all his might, he pushes from the back wall with his back legs, hands out with those little sucker things on, smashes into Spike. They go through the wall together, and they're back up on the surface. I think at this point they're probably, past the graveyard and onto the street at this point.
Yeah.
And they've smashed into each other, grazing Spike's head through the tarmac on the road. Spike starts bleeding as they finally grind to a halt, and that's when something a little bit different happens, because the blood coming from Spike's head starts getting absorbed by the suckers on Morbius's right hand, and the hand starts regenerating, going back to human form. It looks younger, it looks fresh, and that's when Morbius stands and looks at his hand and says, well, what is this? What's going on?
Morbius realizes he doesn't necessarily need the Slayer's blood, because Spike's blood is doing just fine. He's found a cure. Obviously, this is a one-shot deal, so Morbius is in Sunnydale to find what he needs, which he believes to be the Slayer's blood. But he's found that Spike's blood, as an actual vampire, can help him and can help him regenerate and can help him become human and find the cure for this degenerative disease that he has. So it takes Spike's blood in, starts to realize he's becoming human again. Spike, of course, with his keen vampire senses, also realizes this, takes a sniff. He's like, you smell human, right?
Yeah. And obviously Morbius has got both hands on him now, and he's draining all of Spike's blood. Spike is getting thinner and more gaunt, and he's gone grey because all the blood is being sucked out of his body, and Morbius stands back, a regenerated man.
Pause. Yeah, he pauses. He stands back.
He pauses and takes a moment and says that this is incredible. What is this with your blood? And Spike says, yeah, sorry about that. I think they were vegan.
Of course, referring to the beanie-hatted.
Of course, referring to the hipster that he killed earlier today.
Earlier in the story, yeah.
Earlier in the story, and that's when Spike sniffs him and says, "You smell human now," and he knows, with not much blood left, that he can only use the last of his energy to try and overpower the newly human and not superpowered at all Morbius. So he launches up, pounces on Morbius. He's got him on his back. Morbius tries to fight, tries to hit, but he doesn't have the strength anymore. It's not working, and he's helpless. So Spike lunges on top of Morbius, a weak man. He leans in, his fangs that grow longer, and he sniffs him and says, "Revenge is a dish best served dead." And at that moment, a high heel to the face of Spike, as the Slayer herself, Buffy, jumps in, high kicks him, and Spike just tumbles straight over. He's a weak vampire at this point. He doesn't have the energy to fight back, and he tumbles to the ground.
Okay. All right. And to finish our story today, right, Buffy picks up Morbius, who still looks human and she believes is human, right? And she carries him
And she obviously quips because it's a Joss Whedon thing, and she says, you know, not tonight, you bleached blonde Barbie.
There you go.
This was supposed to be my night off, but
Yeah.
obviously an American accent, not in a bad Yorkshire accent.
Yeah.
She picks up the human Morbius and says, why can't you just give me a night off? And Spike, too weak to do anything, says, no, you don't understand, Slayer. He's not. And then he says, you know what? Just do what you want. Just do what you want, Buffy. I'm gonna go to bed. And he crawls off, too tired and too weak, and just goes back into his vault and to tidy up.
And to tidy up. In a rare moment of Buffy breaking the fourth wall, or a Buffy episode breaking the fourth wall, Morbius looks to the camera with a wink. And
she turns around to Morbius and says, "Oh man, you look like a scientist. You at the college. Let's get you home. Let's get you somewhere safe." And that's where Morbius.
He's like, thank you, and then turns round to the camera and gives the camera a wink, and there we go. We cut to black.
Cut to black.
And
who knows what happens next?
Who knows what happens next? We're going to leave that one open-ended for audience participation and debate. We had quite a lot of fun doing this one. Obviously,
yeah. Well, I think if any of the viewers have any ideas about what would happen next, now how do you think Buffy would react to this if this was going to carry on? What would happen next? Would Spike come and get revenge? Where was Drusilla during all this? Should Angel have been involved? I think you should put all those comments down below. And let us know, because you never know. We might be able to do a sequel if the idea's decent.
The idea is these. Yeah. Also, what do you want to see us do next? Obviously, we've got a series of these. We try and get together as often as we can to do more. So let us know what you think. Thank you very much for watching another episode of the Culture Sphere. I've been Dom in my kitchen.
I've been Jay in my living room.
Yeah. We really appreciate you watching and checking us out. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again really soon.
Yay! Woo! Goodbye, everyone. Yeah.